how much the Lord loves you, and it was through that I found out that God was calling me to the diaconate, and so that's how I got to be where I am. One of the other most important things about that is I learned that marriage is a sacrament of service, and I was not a good servant. I was a good husband, but I wasn't a good servant, because in that sacrament of service, what do? We put the needs of our wife and our children ahead of our own. And I think Gail would say that for the first, I don't know how many years that was, 20, 25 years, we had a good marriage, we did. But I think, since my true conversion and the fact that I put Gail ahead of me, and we put God in the center of our marriage, it has made all the difference in the world.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to share?
I do.
Okay. You have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Just kidding.
So I made the same RCIA weekend on a women's weekend. And there was one talk that knocked me off my chair. And it's about service, And so the priest was giving the talk about marriage. And he encouraged us to sit and think about what we do for our spouse. A lot of us were moms, so kids can consume us. So what about your marriage? What do you do for your husband? And I'm like, ooh, laundry? Fix dinner? And he would joke and say, the kids don't have school tomorrow. Because he got up at 3 a.m. back in those days to work 70 hours a week for us. And he would say, hey, you don't have to get up with the kids tomorrow. How about fixing me breakfast and then you can go right back to bed? And I'm like, you know where the Eggo waffles are. Are you kidding me? Well, after that weekend, the Lord's like, he convicted me. And I'm not saying this for any other wife in the room. I'm just saying for me. He convicted me and said, what one little thing you could do to show Mark how much you love him and to die for him, Get up out of that bed early. So that next morning after that retreat, I came creeping out in the living room, and he's like, everything okay? Are you sick? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I just felt convicted after this weekend to do this for you, and I'm going to. And he's like, wow. And the next morning I did, and the next morning I did, and the next morning I did. And it was because God prompted me to say, to do that. So I'm not putting anything out there for anybody else. It was just how he spoke to me.
And that was over 20 years ago.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Wives, pray for your husbands. If you're not married, pray for your husband, that God would bring forward your husband. And remember that he brought the two of you together first. So when the children come, don't do like I did and put the children first. Remember that your husband came first, and they can wait a few minutes. You can reconnect after he gets home from work about the day, and then get back to sports and all of that. So that's about all I have to say.
Okay, so in wrapping up this portion of the talk, just some advice. Husbands out there, put your kids to bed tonight. Grab your wife, and with all the sincerity you can muster, let her know how wonderful she is, how beautiful she is, and how special she is. Repeat that every day. I promise you guys, she will never tire of it. Single men, are there any single men out here with us tonight? That makes it easy. I don't have to go through that. Okay. Yeah. So that is what we have on marriage. But Richard asked me to throw in a little on convalidation, because I hear there may be some convalidations in here. And so I actually was like, sure, Richard, I'll talk about that. Let me go learn about it. So I actually got to talk to Deacon Tom. But convalidation is so much more than the blessing of a civil union. And Deacon Tom was telling me all about this, because it requires a new free act of consent to be made. You actually, I don't want to say you get remarried, but you get married in the eyes of God. The same questions that are asked in a marriage. Do you come here freely? They were in there, we passed by them. Anyway, there are 3 questions you will be asked. Do you come here freely without reservation?
Open to children.
Are you open to children is one, and I forgot the other one. But anyway, you're going to be asked those same 3 questions. There's going to be exchanging of vows, exchanging of rings with words of commitment. What are the benefits of being married in the church? You get God's grace poured into you, not only that day, but every day after that. And it helps us to keep our commitment. It gives us peace of heart. It puts us in union with the church. And it's the fullness of the sacraments. Yeah. So that's why we have our marriages convalidated. So any of you that are having that done, all I can say is, God bless you. I will be praying for you.
Mark, can you explain what that is? Because some people might not know what that is.
So what a convalidation is if someone is married outside the church, if you have a civil marriage, if you got married in another faith, and you want to have a Catholic marriage, that's called it. We don't. It's really not a remarriage. But it's called a convalidation. But it's more than just the couple going up and saying, "Okay, Father, will you bless our marriage?" It's so much more, because you actually are recommitting yourselves in the eyes of God. That's why it's called a convalidation. Thank you, Gail, for having me. Okay, guys. You can take a quick break, or we can just press on. We've got holy orders. We're going to blast through it because Richard wants me done in 6 minutes.
So, yeah, let's just give them a short break, and
Okay.
then we'll come back and do that.